Last time, feel free to look in the description. I told you what the core side was and gave its rough definition. Today, we're going to focus on finding out exactly what the recurring themes are in this latest aesthetic as such, of course, which can be found on the various social networks TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, and so on. Since it's mainly about a visual aesthetic, although there are also playlists on the subject. First, it seems obvious, but all of this is rural. Nothing in the city center or almost nothing can evoke the core side. At the extreme limit, we can see images of villages, preferably preserved villages, always having a medieval aspect, a temporality that we will come back to. When we say rurality, we mean greenery and nature, so we abound in images of forests, trees, flowers, meadows, bushes, everything that is green, and not always. We can see nature in all seasons, also autumn images of nature under the snow and so on. Incidentally, sensitivity to the changing seasons is what is typically done there rather than what was done there, since it is no longer really in line with current life. I would add that it is a rural area in the middle of land, forests, meadows, etc. The seaside is relatively underrepresented, even if technically speaking, it can be included in the definition. But fishermen lived on the seaside, and that is not where you would find cottages or farmers. This probably explains why. When you think of water, it will therefore be more fresh than salty on the core side. Everything that is a well, river as well, etc. Let's go into the interior now. So cottages. This means that even if it were built in the middle of a forest or in a rural area, a recent house, I would say built after 1950, would not fall under the definition either, especially if it is an apartment. For example, no, the house does not need to be very large, but at the very least, the one we call decorative should be from the 19th century, or even earlier, and not have modern materials, such as concrete, plastic shutters or blinds, and so on and so forth. Think instead of shutters, doors, or even half-timbered walls and so on. Also think about the interior. It should be heated not with a radiator but with a fireplace or a stove, even if you can still have additional radiators today. Basically, a home that has not changed much since the 19th century. That's exactly it. The exterior doesn't mix well with modernity. Of course, there's nothing to stop you from owning a computer, but that's not what will be highlighted in the photographs of houses that match the aesthetic. Of course, forget about ready-made meals and canned food, even if you might like them and make them from time to time. Homemade food is valued and seen on the tables in the so-called cottage photographs. Still in this aesthetic, you're more into vintage, and you can count on the presence of people wearing clothes that are more from the early 20th century. So, women tend to wear dresses and aprons, both of which are quite long, and no sneakers, etc. You can also count on a strong presence of animals, cats and dogs of course, but also rabbits, chickens, goats, and sheep. All those charming little creatures that are hard to find in apartments or urban areas. So, little or no modernity, a deep-rooted presence in an environment that is preferably isolated and not very urbanized. Preferably also inland. Again, I noticed very little seaside in this aesthetic, and therefore of course this retro side, as if the 20th century had not happened after all. And if all this is retro, does that mean that all this is backward? That's a good question. Just like you can pin all this on your Pinterest or Instagram, for example, and just look at these images. Just look at them and that's it. You can be body conscious in this way while living in an apartment located in a big city, for example. But the other good question is, how do you do it when you want to live this way, and besides, is it possible? That's what we call being a lifestyle, when you want to incorporate all these elements into your life. It's just possible. I'll come back to that. Don't hesitate to stay connected.